To this day, I still don't think we have a definitive best video game movie. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So I got a special tier list today as I'm going through all of the video game movies that I have seen. Now this includes video game adaptations, movies that are just about video games and not based on any previous IP, as well as one TV show that I had to include on this list, and you might know what I'm referring to. Before I get in this thing, let me know your favorite video game movie of all time, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It would help out quite a bit as I am trying to hit my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. But without further ado, let's talk some video game movies. So the tiers I have are best of the best, great, solid, meh, and bad, the typical tiers that I use on these videos. I've got about 11 or so video game movies here. Again, I haven't seen a lot of these franchises because, as you guys probably know, video game movies don't have the best reputation, so I haven't considered really taking time out of my day to watch a lot of these franchises that just have awful reviews. So let's start this thing off with Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie that came out in 2020. I watched this for the first time leading up to the second film, and it's actually a pretty fun movie. I'm going to put this in solid. I think that the first Sonic film has a lot of heart. Jim Carrey's playing this over-the-top villain, but the human story combined with Sonic really have a nice balance. It emotionally moved me at times. It's sweet enough, you know, I enjoy the character in this world that they create, so the first Sonic film is solid in my book. Next, we've got Wreck-It Ralph, a really great Disney animated film, especially in terms of their modern era. John C. Reilly voices this character of Wreck-It Ralph, and we get to go into this arcade where there's a ton of different characters present, and it's just such a cool world to visit. It's a movie that's filled with adventure. There's so many memorable moments. It's funny. There are moments that remind me of the board game Candyland as a kid, and all around, this is a great movie. I'm going to put it there right now. It is honestly slept on in terms of the newer Disney catalog. I feel like, you know, Tangled and Frozen kind of came out, and this movie became forgotten because of that. But the first Wreck-It Ralph, no lie, has one of the most slept-on twists, or reveals, I should say, out there. I mean, it really got me good, and it's a very clever film. It works. It's got a lot of heart, humor, adventure. It's a really fun family film to watch if you guys haven't seen it for some reason. Next is the reason for this video, the Super Mario Bros. Movie that just hit theaters. I have a review and out-of-theater reaction. You guys can check those out, linked up above and down below in the description. I thought this movie was pretty meh. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put it there. It's not a bad movie. I didn't hate my time with it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I'm familiar with the characters in the world as I grew up playing games like Mario Kart and all the different varieties of Mario games, but I was never fully in love with this character, so maybe that's why it wasn't really my cup of tea. The movie clocks in at about an hour and a half, and it moves at a lightning fast pace, which made it really difficult to care about anyone or anything in this movie, because any emotional moment or relationship that I was supposed to buy into, I failed to do so, which made these adventure scenes that they set up, whether that be on Rainbow Road or a fight between Mario and Donkey Kong, made it really hard to kind of give a damn about it. So, as cool as it was to see a lot of Nintendo references, and trust me, there are Nintendo references galore, you'll somehow get a kick out of it. It was to a point of overload, or in abundance, I should say, because it took me out of the movie. It ended up feeling like a product that Nintendo pumped out to try and make $1 billion, and it just didn't do it for me. The movie had no heart, lacked charm, and especially charisma. There wasn't really a lot of chemistry between these characters, and all around it just felt very meh to me. Next, we've got Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, a movie that I have not seen in over a decade easily, so I'm talking about this with old thoughts, but I remember being so amped to go see this movie. It came out right around the time that school let out in the year 2011 for me, so I was like in 5th grade probably, and I just really enjoyed it at the time. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal did great. I remember it being really trippy at the time, and it was cool to see like a PG-13 Disney movie that wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean, so I ate all that up, but to be honest with you, I can't remember too much about this film, and I think that might be a sign of the actual quality. I remember thinking at the time that was a really solid movie, but then I never really went back and rewatched it, and as a kid, you know, I don't read too much into that, but looking back, if I didn't rewatch a movie a lot as a kid, I don't think I liked it that much. So I'm going to put this in meh. I probably like it more than the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I think it probably is fairly forgettable if I wasn't constantly going back to it as a kid. I mean, I rewatched the Pirates films all the time as a kid, another PG-13 Disney franchise, and I loved them. I remember them vividly from my childhood. This movie I remember watching once or twice and being like, it's fun, and then just it kind of fell to the wayside and I never gave it another shot. So meh feels right for that movie. Moving on though, we've got Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, the first Jumanji film with The Rock, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan. I really enjoyed this movie. I watched it once in my life and I had a blast. I'm actually going to put it in solid. I think it's better than the first Sonic film. Again, I want to rewatch this soon, and I've actually never seen the sequel. I think it's called The Next Level, but I remember just really enjoying this movie. Now, it's a unique premise as they go into a video game, essentially, but I dug it. You know, it had a lot of great comedy. I mean, you've got Jack Black in a movie, Kevin Hart, The Rock. There's going to be some funny bits, and it got me laughing a good bit. But I also loved the adventure the movie took us on, and I really remember it being a solid time, at least in my eyes. Moving on, we've got Uncharted, a movie that was pretty universally disliked, I should say. I think that it had like a 30 or 40 on Rotten Tomatoes. Not everyone loved it, and coming from someone who loves the games, I actually got a kick out of this one. I didn't think it was perfect by any means. It was a flawed movie, but viewing it as its own movie, not as like an adaptation of Uncharted, I actually had a really good time with it. I haven't seen it since theaters, and I haven't really had the desire to rewatch it, but I enjoyed my, 2 hours in the theater with it, so I think it would go in the solid tier, It's nothing great, but I think that it was a solid enough time. Tom Holland's charisma alone carried the movie, and it had the, adventure feel of a franchise like Indiana Jones or Pirates or National Treasure even, brought to the big screen, and we really just don't get adventure franchises like that anymore, so I do hope that they do a sequel. I'd be down for that. Again, we just don't have adventure franchises really anymore, and that's one of my favorite genres, so I'll go solid. I'll put it like right in the middle of these two. I think I'd probably, given the two, I'd probably rewatch Jumanji, the first Jumanji, over Uncharted, but I might take Uncharted over Sonic. That's just how I'm feeling right now, though. Next, we've got Free Guy, a movie that is exploring the idea of basically NPCs in video games, and Ryan Reynolds is hilarious here. There's a lot of fun cameos in the movie, and it's a very interesting premise, to say the least. Joe Keery is like the highlight for me. Taika Waititi was unbearably annoying in this movie, I'm just going to be honest, but again, the premise alone, fascinating here. We don't really get things like this. I think I described it as like a Grand Theft Auto for families to enjoy, so really enjoyable film. I think I would go solid with Free Guy. I might actually go top of solid. I think that this movie really does have its highlight moments. Ryan Reynolds carried it, and it's just such a charismatic, feel-good type of movie. I can't help but think it's a solid time. I don't know if they'll ever do a sequel. In fact, they probably won't, because that would be kind of going against the messaging of the film in a way, but I would be down nonetheless. Moving on, we've got Ralph Breaks the Internet. Bad. This movie was awful. I mean, especially when compared to the first Wreck-It Ralph. What a massive step down this was. I thought the first Wreck-It Ralph was creative, fresh, fun. This movie lacked all of that entirely. It just got so irritating and boring. The movie was just so unmemorable too. I watched it in theaters. I was getting so bored with all of the decisions they were making. It just lacked all of the, not only like stakes and emotions, but it just felt stupid compared to the first film. It deserves a spot in bad. Next, we've got Ready Player One, a movie that I saw in theaters and I remember enjoying, and I legitimately haven't watched it since theaters back in, I think, 2017, 2018, so that might be a sign. At the time, I remember I got a kick out of it, but I haven't really thought about it since. I know it's Steven Spielberg. I think he's the GOAT director, but this movie, for whatever reason, I watched it once, and I guess disposable would be the word that I used to describe it. I would put it at the top of meh, just because the movie didn't feel memorable enough for me. It's like teetering on the meh to solid line. It had some standout moments and references / homages to other films. Hell, a ton of iconic characters show up in the third act, which was great. But the movie itself, I don't think is one of Spielberg's stronger, and compared to the others on this list, it's not one that I'm going back and rewatching that much. The only TV show on this list is The Last of Us, and I had to get it on here. It's going in best of the best. It's not even close. It is the best video game adaptation of all time in terms of a video game that was adapted to a movie or show. It is the premier video game adaptation. I mean, this took everything that was fantastic about the game and almost made it better in a way, as we got more depth and explored some more relationships that weren't really talked about or discussed in the game. Notably in episode 3 with Bill and Frank, we got a heartbreaking romance story there that added so much to the overall impact of their role in the show. Made me look at the game through a different lens too. It was just really cool to see the game reimagined in a new light, with both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey giving incredible performances that are probably going to win awards at the Emmys. The show emotionally wrecked me. It packed the same punch as the game, but again, it brought it in a new light. My only minor thing with this is at times it kind of just felt like watching a live action walkthrough of the game, especially like in the latter half of the show. But the game is so fantastic that I'm not mad about it. I knew it was coming. Earlier on in the show, they switched some things up and had a few surprises, but I wish they maybe did a few more things differently, but at the same time, why taint something that's so perfect in the game? It's the premier video game adaptation, and I'm interested to see how they tackle seasons 2 and 3. How do they adapt The Last of Us Part 2? Are they going to make huge changes or not? Who's to say, but the divisiveness will be there, as this fandom could become very toxic very soon. And last but not least is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which I actually don't like as much as the first Sonic film. I don't hate this movie, but just because I have the first Sonic at the back of solid, I'll actually go meh with it at the top of meh. It was an enjoyable time. Knuckles, played by Idris Elba, was a scene stealer for sure. Tails is introduced in this movie, but I just remember it being a little less focused in the first and having less heart. So if I'm watching one of these two, I'm going with the first one all day. It was just more memorable. I remember Sonic the Hedgehog 2 being really overhyped at the time, and I just never bought into it. Not a bad movie, just like, it was meh, you know, it was decent at best. But that's gonna do it for my tier list ranking of all of these video game movies slash singular show that I've seen. Let me know your favorite video game movies in the comments down below, and what video game movies should I watch. I only included ones that I have seen, so there are a ton out there, whether that's Hitman, Resident Evil, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider stuff. Haven't seen any of those franchises, so they were not on the list because of that. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.